Hello everyone. We want to welcome you to our Non-Del Growth Accelerator. My name is Ginger Bell. I have my co-host, my co-presenter in crime, Matt Coles. Matt, always good to see you.
Thank you. Thank you for everybody for joining. Super excited about this one. This one's always going to be a good conversation piece, and the attendance for the last three have been fantastic.
Yeah, so this is our fourth in the series. There's six in the series, so we have two more following this. If you have missed it, just kind of an overview. The goal in putting this whole session together, Matt, when we did this, and we did the business building last year, as far as what you need to do for coming up with your mission and your vision and your marketing plan. This year, what we're focusing on is really the core of the business. So, how do you take your business and how do you take it to that next level? And so we've been going through every month kind of those key business planning parts. But really, the goal in doing this is we only have 45 minutes with you. So I would love nothing more, Matt, than to do this honestly as a full day workshop because it would just be amazing and have people get paper and pen and write this all out. And maybe someday we'll do that. But the idea is to have the exercises to get in to do this. And so what we've done, this is the entire plan. Month one was defining your leadership identity. Two is optimizing to scale. So, what you need to do in order to build your business. Last month, we worked on building your team. So, how to write a job description, how to write a training plan, how to find the right person, how to vet those people out. All of those things we worked on last month. And so, this month, we're getting into creating that repeatable client experience and not just a repeatable one, Matt, but really getting into creating that wow experience. And so that's what we've been doing every month. I have a handout for you. We're going to probably pop over theirs because there's some really important exercises that I want them to be able to grab onto, Matt. And so with that, we're going to go ahead and get started as I'm letting people in here. And so the goal today, really in session four here, Matt, is to elevate the experience. And so not just growing it, but elevating it.
Yeah,
So,
I think this is one of those things, Ginger, where, you know, we talk about this, and this is kind of my go-to line. So I'm sure people have heard this before, which is what happens if rates drop a 0.5% tomorrow, right? Like, is your experience that you're giving to your borrowers and your realtors going to be the same as it is today while rates are a little bit higher, right? And I know for a fact that the last time that we went through a cycle, the biggest problem that we had in the TPO space is that we all kind of let our realtor relationships go to the side.
yeah.
We were so focused on the borrower experience and the refinance experience, and now we need to make sure that we do not let that happen again because we want to continue to capture market share in the TPO space.
Yep, absolutely. And so I don't know why my presentation's acting a little wonky right now. And I might just pop over to the actual workbook, Matt.
Okay.
But one of the things, when you're looking at getting that, in fact, I'm actually going to do that right now. So we have another, I think it'll be easier if we just kind of pop into this workbook
Yeah, I
because
think
that's what we're going
we're
to get into.
yeah, I think the first thing that we started talking about, right, is just trying to figure out where do you stand today and what's your experience, what's your customer experience look like today?
Exactly. And so that's the whole goal as we're doing this is to be able to look at that. And it ties in with really, Matt, what we did in previous months is mapping out that journey. And so having a very good idea, not only as far as you and your business, but if you're going to be hiring people, you have to know that, right? And then also when you're looking at that, where are the points in the journey that really could cause some of those problems where people are either going to love you or they're going to go, well, that wasn't so cool. And so taking the time to do this is important. And I mean, honestly, Matt, I mean, where, the bottlenecks are, where those, problems could be. And so when you look at that and you go through, your lead intake, that's your first contact. What opportunities do you have then to make that a wow experience? Or, to drop the ball, and especially if you're getting busier, right? If you're getting busier, these are the places where these things can happen. The pre-approval, is it easy for them? Is it easy for them to complete the information? Is it easy for you to follow up with them? Looking at that, looking at your applications and your disclosures, do they understand what's going on? Years ago, I created a series of videos that went
Hey,
through these
Marcos, this is
different
John
things,
Wright.
and
How's
I
it
think
going? Good
that's
morning.
important in doing that. Whoops, I'm going to mute someone here. Um, so important in doing that. So think about where those communications can happen and where can you create those wow experiences. And all the way through the post closing. And Matt, I think that's where a lot of people miss the opportunity to create wow experiences, right?
Well, I would think that, at least in my own world, right, it doesn't take a lot for me to be wowed by anything that I receive. Right? I mean,
You're easy to
the,
please.
the extra TLC. I'm just going to give you a great example, right? So I had a dinner reservation, pretty important business dinner reservation for 10 people. And the restaurant called me ahead of time, made
Mhm.
sure I knew and signed off on the menu that we were going to have. Excellent service during the reservation. And then afterwards, getting that phone call from the manager, I guess is who it was that called, and asking me about my experience and if I would be considering using them in the future for any other future business
Yeah,
dinners. It's as simple as that. I'm like, yes, absolutely, right? I committed to it as soon as they made that phone call. So now I have this verbal commitment that yes, I am going to consider them. And so it's just a fantastic way to continue that experience all the way through. Whatever it is, I'm a big handwritten note guy.
yeah.
Someone does something super nice for you, handwritten note. Someone goes out of their way, handwritten note. And there are technologies out there today that makes it look like a handwritten note that you don't actually have to sit there and write a handwritten note anymore. But it is whatever your TLC touch is going to be, just
Right.
make sure you're consistent with it.
Yeah. And put it into your workflow. So this go back to the previous months that we have, and it's like add those through your workflow so it becomes a part of it. And if you're building a team, look at those things, the handwritten notes or using something like send out cards. That's something you can hand off to an LOA. And so, pull those things all back in together. So the next thing, Matt, we go through a client experience flow. So this is an exercise for you to do. And looking at the different stages. So example, pre-approval. What happens at pre-approval? Credits pulled, docs reviewed, whatever that is. And what I want you to do when you're going through this is think about your client's emotions at the time, not yours, not your, frazzled about this or that. Get into your client's heads and think about what are they feeling. There's uncertainty, there's anxiousness, then this anxiety, and so think about what you can do then in creating that communication standard and tie it back to what those standards are, and then think about where you have those opportunities to impress. I love personalized videos, and it doesn't take much to do that. If you don't even want to, there's Matt, there's you love AI, so I know there's platforms out there that you can honestly record a video. AI will dub in that person's name, and it's the technology is getting really, really good. And then you can just send that out to them, whether it's an email, whether it's a text or whatever. But think about those ways to make, like, you got the phone call from the manager. Think about ways you can put them into your processes where it doesn't have to take a lot of time, or you can have someone help you with that, but it still gives that personalized feeling. So think
It,
about that going through that.
it is, I know this is pretty, at this point, this is kind of old school, but I just been reminded about it recently. I've had a couple of my referral partners dropping me voice memos, right? And so it's not a voicemail, it's not a phone call, it's not a
Mhm.
text, it's not an email. It's something that's completely different that I'm like, oh, I don't need to talk to this person. They're just giving me a
Yeah,
brief update about something, et cetera, that might be. And so if I wanted to have a conversation, obviously I could pick up the phone and have a conversation. But this referral partner was nice enough to just drop me a voice memo, a simple, hey, stop by this person's office. I wanted to let you know XYZ happened. XYZ paperwork's coming in next
yeah,
week, what it might be. Just a cool, unique visual, different touch, I guess.
yeah,
It wasn't super fancy, but it was made that person stand out for sure.
yeah. And you can do that on your phone. I mean, that's a simple thing to
Yep.
do, just to record it. So I love that one. Okay, so the next part, and this is section 2, is setting your client service standards. So this gets into what are your requirements? What are the benchmarks? And especially if you're looking at scaling your business, you want to set these up. We went through these in the last session about what are those core service benchmarks, not only that you know it, but that your team knows it. And so going through that is very important. And we have some, examples here as far as your response time, all calls and texts are returned within 2 hours. Your standard is what? Your status updates, your available hours. A lot of people, very old school, is you're available all the time.
No.
Um, I don't like that because I think it negates your value. That's just me personally.
It's just also it's a week out. I'm available 24/7. No, you're not. You're not available 24/7.
Yeah.
And then like
And you
you're
don't want to be. That's not fair to your family. It's not fair. It's like, it's
you're gonna get cranky when they call you at Friday
okay.
night at 8 o'clock. You're gonna have all those issues. So yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Setting boundaries for what your availability is it's appreciated by most people.
Yeah.
And the idea that you're available 24/7 is just silly. Now, listen, people are always I get that even though I'll clearly like people know that I'm, on the golf course on a Saturday morning, I'll
Right.
still get I'm so sorry to bother your weekend. No, you're not sorry. That's fine. Let's just move past the approach. You're not sorry. You actually need some help, and that's fine. And I will make my time self available for you.
Yeah.
But there are customers, and I know that we've all dealt with this before, that will give them an inch and they'll take a mile type of thing. We just want to make
Right.
sure that precedence. But one of the ones I love on here is response time, right? Um, in our industry, at least in my career, I always had anxiety when I wasn't able to pick up every single phone call that came through, right? And
Yeah.
it's just humanly impossible sometimes. I can't talk to three people at the same time. So in my voicemail, I say, if I get this voicemail, I will absolutely return your phone call within the next 15 minutes. And if someone leaves a voicemail, I will make sure that I look at the script of it,
hmm
uh, the track of it, and I will text that person back within 15 minutes if I'm not going to be available.
Right.
I'm going to step out of this meeting and make myself available for you in XYZ time, and I hold myself to that time. Um, Not being available and not letting people know when you're going to get back to them is going to create, they're going to call somebody else, right? That's ultimately how it comes down to. So we just want to make sure that we're setting that right precedence.
Yep. Yeah. And then the next part of it, Matt, is going into and writing down your rules. We went through this last month when we were creating your SOPs, your standard operating procedures. If it's not written down, it doesn't exist. And so define your service standards. What does that look like? And, what does that go through as far as your top 5 client experience standards? So what do you want that experience for your client to be like? And be specific. Don't just have it like respond quickly. I love that you have in your voicemail, I will respond to you in 15 minutes. And even if you can't call them back, you're going to send them a text back. So that for you, Matt, that is a service standard. That is a non-negotiable for you. That's something that you're going to stick to. And, even if it's just a quick, hey, sorry, I'm in a meeting right now. I'll give you a call back at this time. But define what those rules are and then write them down. Write them down so that as you're building, as you're hiring, everybody on your team knows what those standards are, right?
Well, you muted me, so obviously I said something
Oh, did
wrong.
I?
One of the things that also is really important, and I see a couple people on here on this call that are also responsible for managing people. These rules also apply for management as well as clients, right? So it is very important that you don't just look at this as customer facing. You want to make sure that you're
Mm,
looking at this as a manager facing. Um, Unfortunately, my wife does not get my 15-minute response time. So maybe I should look at putting this into my family response time. But definitely if you're a manager, you want to make sure that you're doing some of this for both your clients and your internal
right.
counterparties.
Yeah.
There's nothing more frustrating than having a manager that doesn't respond to your emails in a reasonable time frame.
Yeah. Well, so that's a great point. And diving deeper into that conversation, Matt, is critical because those service standards, and you have your external customers and you have your internal customers. And sometimes we forget that the internal part of our business is as important as the external part of our business, right?
Yep,
And
absolutely.
so, maybe you do have the service standards that are for external and internal. And this is a great exercise when you think about, for those of you who do manage teams, to go through something like this with your teams and to set what those standards are. Years ago, I did a workshop for Arch MI, one of their clients, and we went through this, Matt, to where with their entire ops team, we went through and established what those communications service standards were. And we had sales and ops together, and it was honestly very eye-opening for the two of them and to be able to really look at what was that bridge on both, serving the customer, but then also keeping that internal service standard. So that's a great point to be able to look at that. Okay, next section, we talk about creating some wow moments. So you have your service standards. It's like, okay, this is it. This is, what we want them to be able to meet to. But people remember wows. They really, and they share wows. I mean, you think about that. And I'll give you an example. We ride in Ubers all the time, right? And I was at a conference, I think it was a camp event in San Diego years ago, going from the conference to one of the many happy hours that happen. And so I had shared an Uber with a couple other people, and the Uber driver had lights set up on the Uber, and he had a disco ball, and he started playing this disco music and everything. And it's like, it took that, what's normally a very mundane, pretty quick Uber ride, to a whole new level, to the point that I recorded it and recently shared it because unfortunately one of the people that was on that ride with us had passed away. But I remembered that, and that was a wow moment, right? And so think about, and you don't have to do it all the time, but where are those places, those opportunities in your business to create some of those wow, memorable moments for people? And the other thing, and you're talking about internal staff, is what can you do to open that up to where your internal staff has the ability to create some of those wow moments? So getting them to think about, hey, you know, not just, your clear to close or your closing day, but, maybe the loan milestone updates, maybe it was like a long time or a tough file or, what can you do to create those wow moments? So those are things to think about where you can do that and to add them into your business.
Well, I'm gonna share my first time home buyer experience, which was 17 years ago at this point, right? The realtor a lot of realtors actually do a very good job at this about creating these wow moments, but the
Mhm.
realtor that I used and I still use today um, did so much for me post close, right? Like I got this homestead document. I had no idea what to do with it. He called me when he knew it was going to be in the mail proactively and said, "Hey, you're probably going to receive a document that looks like this. Let's go over it." He called me when I got my first property tax bill, right? When he knew property taxes were sent. Hey, does it look like it's in line with what we had talked about, what property taxes were going to look like, right? And then all these moments of the follow up that he did for almost a full year or a year and a half after the close made a customer for life. And
Right.
it really, it wasn't like, the tagging of somebody in social media, it's pretty self-serving, right? It's going to be an opportunity for you to tag yourself and talk about how great you are oftentimes. But the information and the knowledge that they gave to me and shared with me, and the care that he had during the process really mattered to me all the way through. And to this day, I get a birthday card, a handwritten birthday card from him every year. Well, I think it's handwritten. I never smeared it, right? Uh, he calls me every year on the anniversary of us buying our house. Hey, is there anything else that you're looking to buy right now? It's just all of that consistency. And we're talking 17 years.
Yeah.
Consistency of the follow up is unbelievable.
And I think that's where a lot of people miss that. 17 years is a very long period of time. And I can guarantee you, and I know you live in California, which is very competitive for real estate agents. And if somebody asks you, hey, I'm looking for a real estate agent, no doubt who you're going to send them to, right?
1000%.
And if he didn't keep in touch with you, it probably wouldn't be that top of mind. So that's one of those things too. Creating a consistency can help to create some of those wow moments as well. Okay, so in the workbook, what you have, and guys, the idea in creating this workbook is for you to use it. And so print it off. I like writing things out. There's something that happens that is a creative, actually, connection between the hand and the brain when you write. And so print it out. It's only 13 pages. Print it out. And then, think about, where do you want to do this? Where do you want to do your wow moment? It doesn't have to be in every single spot, but think about where those opportunities lie and then write those down. So, my repeatable wow moment, what does that look like? When it happens in the process, when is that? How it's going to be delivered? Can you automate it? Will it be manual? Will it be kind of a combination of the two? Those are things to look at. And then obviously any additional notes that you want along with that. And the
There's also,
next, go
sorry,
ahead.
Ginger, there's also an opportunity that someone that I work with just brought back up, which is, maybe it fits into this, maybe it doesn't, which is the humbleness of, if they chose not to do something with you, if the customer chose not to use you, the follow-up process of maybe 2 weeks later or 3 weeks later, like, saw that you got your house closed or whatever, mortgage closed, whatever it could be, whatever you have as a tickler to figure out that part out. Is there anything feedback that you could give to me that would have made the outcome a little bit different, right? And having that humble attitude of trying to go back out and just seeing if there's anything that you could have done better to earn that business, all in the while wishing them great luck with whatever they chose to
Yeah,
do, is a fantastic opportunity for you to continue to build out your brand so that you know where to strengthen.
right. Well, and that really ties into the communication, right?
Yep.
So that communication builds that confidence. So you're not just processing a loan, it's not just paperwork, you're setting those expectations. And borrowers, they don't know what they don't know. I mean, they don't know what the experience. And if they've been through it before, maybe they do know, maybe it was good, maybe it was bad. But for a lot of people, it's not something that they do very often. People only really, a lot of times buy a couple of houses, and we're seeing that lengthen now. It was shortened for a while where people were staying, and now we're seeing that lengthened. And so having that communication is important, because if you're silent, and what do they say, no news is good news, it's like that's not necessarily the truth. So don't be afraid of over communicating and setting that ability to let them know they can contact you. And I love the fact, Matt, of you saying somebody you didn't even close business with, because guess what, they know other people. And maybe, I mean, maybe it wasn't anything with you. Maybe it was just one of those things. Who knows? But there's three
No, I have a super fragile ego. I'm sure it has something to do with me.
I don't believe that at all. And so think about using these core principles, Matt, as far as your communication. Number one, be proactive over reactive. So if you think there's going to be a problem, don't stick your head in the sand. Don't pretend like it doesn't exist. Nip it in the bud. And I think that's so important. And just hit it head on. Brian Tracy, one of my favorite books of his is Eat a Frog for Breakfast. And that's one of the principles, when I was an account executive that I applied in my business. It's like, if your file was not going to close, or if rates changed and you didn't get it locked, you were the first phone call that I was going to make. And Brian talks about, Matt, if you have, more than one ugly frog, eat the ugliest one first. So get the worst one out of the day, be proactive, not reactive, and you're going to be able to move on. And people
Well,
respect that.
I do agree with that, but there are, again, I'm going to go back to internal and external customers, right?
Mhm.
I don't know how I want to say this, but the poop rolls upstream, right? So there are times where I'll get phone calls as a manager that says, "Hey, this client is super pissed. Can you call him?" And I'm like, I don't want to call him. Like, I didn't create the situation. What do we need to do? Like, what happened? And you just got to, that is a time to be as reactive and then coach through that as an opportunity as well.
Right.
Again, if you're a leader in this industry, everyone that's probably on this phone call has had to probably deliver 10,000 pieces of bad news at some
Yeah.
point in career. Not everyone has, and not everyone is confident in doing it. And that's one of the things where, when that does happen, you need to coach to that and not just handle it, but you need to make the other person a party of it as well, so that you can coach that experience and how to navigate those conversations. Those are very challenging conversations to have, and it only gets better through coaching and better and practice and practice.
Yep, absolutely. And being clear in that, so clarity over jargon, make sure using language they can understand, and consistency. And that's important. Communication, if people know that they're going to get a call from you and you have that consistency, that builds trust. If they know they're not going to get a call with you from you and they're going to have to be the one, it's like that creates that distrust. So having that consistency is very important. So looking at and having an honest conversation with yourself, it's like, where do you need to work on this? Where does your team need to work on this? What does that look like? And then write those notes down as well. And here we have some of those communication touch points. So going through your business and looking at in the communication touch points, and obviously if you're internal, these may be a little bit different, but looking at that, what is your current communication for each of the loan stages? And then what's the gap? What do you need to improve? And being very honest about yourself is important. Or maybe in your team, Matt, it's like looking at your team. It's like, this would be if you're a manager and you manage, a group, no matter how, what size, I would sit down with this and have them fill this out, right, Matt?
Yeah, I think that one of the things that I've learned as a manager, right, is that the consistency of what is going to get done is really as good as the system that you put in place and the expectation that you lay forward, right? So if you're managing a team and you put together these touch points for yourself, and then you continue to add team members, right? That's what we see a lot of over
Mhm.
here. And we see a ton of growth in a lot of our non-dels. And outside observer, I start to see for a fraction of the follow-up that gets done. I observe these lenders and I say, okay, well, you went from 2 LOs to 10 LOs. Now, not all 10 LOs are carrying that logo as proud as the first two were, right? Does that make sense? And so you
Yeah,
just want to make sure that you have that consistency of touch point. Everyone can do something a little bit different, but if we go back to the very beginning about what we talked about, building a mission statement, who you are as a company, what you want to represent, it's your company. You got to make sure that the people that are carrying your flag are doing exactly what you expect.
right. Yeah. And doing this, even once a year at the minimum, but I would even look at, doing it every 6 months. And especially if you have new hires to be able to start off with this and to help them as far as filling those gaps.
I'm at Waterstone Mortgage, which
Whoops.
is right behind Popeye's.
Okay.
Right behind Popeyes.
I'm getting hungry for lunch. Sue, where are you going? Okay, so section 4. And again, this gets into what's going on with the borrower. And so when you're looking at this and it's, day 10, we have an example of here, processing. You haven't heard from your lender in 4 days. What are you thinking? What are they feeling? And so when you think about, going through the different stages and what is your borrower thinking? What could they be thinking? And this could be one, Matt, as an exercise to go through with one of your borrowers. I would go through this with your real estate agents as well, because, and especially, the market's different right now. So real estate agents, um, the really good ones obviously still have good pipelines, but a lot of them aren't getting as much. And so, what are they thinking? What is their fear? What are they feeling? And any chance that you have to really link in that trust with you want to be able to do that. So I would expand on this, Matt, and get into not only the borrower perspective activity, but also the realtor and what are they
Well,
thinking? What are they feeling?
I wouldn't even stop there. Whoever is a referral partner, I would
Yeah.
take this for.
Yep. Which would be great. Okay, and then the last part of this workbook is getting into our milestone communication framework. And so using this, going through every of the pieces in your loan milestone, you want to complete this template for the most common milestone touch points. And so where is that communication happening with the borrower? What's the next thing you want to communicate with them? And then, what's needed for them, actions required, documentations, and then when will they hear from you again? So just like in your message, hey, you're going to leave a message. I'm going to call you back in 15 minutes, or you're going to hear from me in some way. When are they going to hear from you again? The other thing, Matt, that's important, we have a lot of different ways to communicate with people now. Phone calls, texting, email. So you want to find out, what do they like? It's not what you like, but what do they like? And make sure and note that. And so looking at this and building that framework on the milestones, make sure that you're creating that consistency as far as the experience, and then looking for those opportunities to create those wow experiences as well. Okay. So if you have questions, type them in here. How many of you, I'm going to pull up my chat here, have been with us in the previous months and have been active in completing your workbooks? Because we've had 3 different workbooks. I'm going to make sure and send. So what I'm going to send to you guys as a follow-up is a copy of this recording, all the handouts, and then the copy of the last 3 recordings and the handouts. If you haven't been doing it, go back and do it. And I would start with 1, Matt. I would go then to 2, to 3, to 4, and look at how you can build this into your business. Take the time, map out time in your schedule and say, this is when I'm going to work on my business, not in my business. So has anyone, and you can type in the chat if you want, has anyone filled out any of the workbooks so far and been able to start implementing those into some of your business? And I know we've been covering a lot throughout. If you haven't and you have questions, by all means, you can reach out to myself or to Matt, let us know. And I'm not seeing any questions in here right now, Matt.
Yeah, so I know our next webinar is on Thursday, May 14th, Ginger.
Yes. Yep.
Partnership power is the topic.
Yep.
You know how well I like to prepare for these webinars. You know how I like to really dig in before we get into these. What are we going to be talking about in Partnership Power?
Yeah, so same kind of thing. So looking at not only just how to have that experience with your partners, but where to look to expand it, but then also go deeper into building those relationships with your partners. And I think that's something, we feel like if we have a realtor partner, a referral partner, that's good. But really it's about how to get more business from that, how to deepen that relationship. So that's what we're going to really focus on next month.
It's such a great conversation because I think, when we are younger, we always got told, what's the worst that could happen if you ask, right? And we kind of lose a little bit of that as we get older and older and we don't ask. But I've shared this with you before in private conversations, which is I think our industry is at an all-time of support level. I don't think I've ever seen our industry in the 25 years, 26 years that I've been doing it, picking up the phone and asking people like, hey, I saw that you had success with this, and they will give you the answers to the playbook at this point, right? There is no secret sauce that's really being protected anymore, and people are very, very supportive of a lot of people in this industry, and it's a fantastic part of our industry today.
Yeah, absolutely. Very good.
Awesome.
Okay. Well, Matt, thank you so much. For those of you who are with us live, thank you for hopping on. For those of you who are watching a recording, thank you for watching. And we'll send a follow-up and then we'll see you next month on the next How to Grow Your Business. So thanks, Matt.
Thank you.